Do you ever get a little voice in your head that tells you to keep things even when you know that you haven't used them in a really long time? That little voice I call Sandy, and she's a girl that loves to worry about problems. Sandy often would tell me that I had to keep things just in case something would come up, that I would need these 2-pound arm weights that I haven't used in I'm not sure how long, but who knows? One day I might need them. That's Sandy talking. And worry is an unease of what could possibly happen in our future, right? We can get so caught up in worry and our fear of letting go that we won't declutter anything in case it could have a possible use in our future. And where worry a lot of times is a really good thing because it's our alarm system that goes off telling us that there could be danger in the future. We can become oversensitized to it, where we think even getting rid of a pair of old socks could be a sign of danger. So why is worry really all that bad when it comes to decluttering if it is a natural process our body is supposed to do? Well, I have research. In fact, there was a 2016 study from the Journal of Anxiety Disorders found that when people worry, they tend to avoid making decisions. Well, doesn't that make sense? It says our brains literally freeze when we fear making the wrong choice, and that's exactly what happens when we're decluttering, right? We come up to an item that we're just not sure if we're ready to declutter it, but we don't have any good reasons on why we should keep it. It just feels good to have it, right? And we've had it maybe for years and years, and so therefore we can make all the justification in the world on why we shouldn't let it go. But in all those years, we haven't used it. And so we get stuck in this like conundrum of what to do, and we worry. We worry about what could possibly happen. Thinking about the last time that you decluttered, friends, what is something that you had for a long time that you finally got over and decluttered it? Now think about, do you think about this object every day since you have decluttered it? I remember when I first started this decluttering journey thinking that I was going to perseverate because girl loves to perseverate at night about things that I've decluttered and I would worry about them. And what I found is that these just in case items that I've decluttered over the past 6 years have never once kept me up at night worrying that I might need them the next day. Finding out what is reality and what is just way out there in outer space, crazy worry, sometimes can be kind of hard to differentiate. And this might relate to some of you. Have you ever had a conversation with your husband and you're talking about something that you're very passionate about, and then he says, well, logically, I'm thinking such and such. Logically, I'm thinking we shouldn't bring the huge suitcase. We should bring the smaller one because our trunk is small and we have to get on an airplane. Like those I'm thinking logically words have always been my worst enemy because I'm somebody who often thinks I'm thinking logically, but often I'm thinking with my heart. When we are decluttering, we often think with our heart and we worry and we think about, oh, I remember this time that I really enjoyed using this item, or I can imagine myself really enjoying this item in the future, because we're thinking with our hearts and our worry and our passion and our fear of the future instead of thinking of logically, when was the last time I really used this item? Because that's going to be reality. And the other side is just fake. It's not true. It's not real. It's not really happening. And so the first thing that I want you to do as we are really taking the reins on our clutter is I want you to set a quick timer on your watch, your phone, whatever you got, and I want you to set it for 15 minutes. In this 15 minutes, you are going to pretend with me that you are walking into this house for the first time. Over the past year, we have been looking for a new house in a different district, and that's why this idea, I think, is so important. When you're walking around somebody else's house, what do? You think about, oh wow, that maybe this room's a little cluttered, or I don't think I'd have that right there. I don't think this kitchen's gonna work for me because everything just looks so cramped, right? We start thinking about this stuff when we are touring other people's houses, but we very rarely do it to our own. And so today, for 15 minutes, you're not gonna worry about decluttering, but you are gonna put on your imagination hat and you're gonna walk around your house as if it is somebody else's house. You are going in for a tour, and I want you to really pay attention to what is working in my home, because I bet there's some things that you really enjoy. But what isn't? Or why isn't it? Is it because it was a great idea at the time, but really I'm finding my family never uses it? Is it a place where I just thought if I stuffed a lot of organizational boxes in there that it would start to work for me? Those places in your house you'll start to be more aware of when you start looking at your house through somebody else's eyes. I want you to think about also, is this object or this piece of furniture making my life easier? Because sometimes we do live in worry because we have all of these things that we've collected over the years and we had really big plans for them, but then those don't work out, right? And it's making my life harder because you can't take off the cushion covers, or I have too many pillows on my bed and so I can never make my bed. Our worry, our fear of the future can also take place in those places around our house where we have these gorgeous, beautiful things that maybe part of us still wants to keep. But when we can answer, is it making my life easier? Often the answer is going to be no. As we're ready now to start tackling that worry clutter that we're stuck on, those just in case pieces, we're gonna start with the idea that we're gonna do one category at a time. If you're getting overwhelmed like I used to with my worry clutter, then picking a category like pots and pans or mugs or just my white shirts will get you started decluttering without having to worry that you have to do the whole kitchen or your whole bedroom. And what I will say about these items, once you have the category you're working on, I want you to get more away from, do I love this item? Does it bring me joy? And start thinking more in terms of, do I use this item? Is it useful? Is it helpful? How is my family enjoying this item, or how am I enjoying this item? So in our kitchen, if you come across things like your old pan that you push to the back because you have a new one, it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't like this item, that it's not useful, but it does mean that it's not the best that you could have, because the best that you could have is up near the front. All this other stuff is our worry clutter. It's, what if I need an extra pan and I don't have it? What am I going to do? So overcoming this innate worry we have about decluttering these excess things is not easy, and that's why we're still here. I'll try to show you a little closer because I'm so proud of the way I've organized this little cabinet. But the other thing that I want you to think about when it comes to worry and clutter and you're picking your categories is to think about, does it fit? Yes, you might like it. Yes, you may even love it and it brings you joy, but does it fit? If those excess things are not fitting and you cannot find a place for them around your house, then that should be a sign to you that this might just be worry clutter. Your worry telling you that you need to keep all of these excess things. But space is finite. This is one of my favorite ones, so stick with me here because we're getting you out of the rut of staying with worry clutter. And that is to ask yourself, when you're looking at your objects in your home, what would possibly happen if I was to get rid of these things? What would be the worst case scenario if these things were just to disappear? I used to think all the time about how if my house was to catch on fire, what would happen to these objects? And that really helped me a lot. I think I got it from the minimalists. I could be wrong, but that helped me a lot, thinking about if this was to disappear or catch fire, what would happen? That is our worst case scenario. And in all reality, yes, I like both of these things. They are helpful, and my husband insists on having a pizza cutter. But I've lived without one of these before, and I lived without one of these babies before, and I used a spoon and I used a knife. That was all that happened to me. It really wasn't that bad. And if these were to disappear, I could easily use the spoon and knife again, or I could just go buy them for probably $20 or less and have them back in my home pretty quickly. When we start thinking about worst case scenario, sometimes we can backtrack and realize that our worry is stopping us from using our logical side of our brain and making us keep so many things that we really don't need because we're living in this fear of what could happen in the future. And so when we start to declutter these things, we realize that, hey, it's actually, we're going to be just fine. We're going to be okay. The worst case scenario is really not that bad in order to gain my space and my peace back. So let's be real for a second. I am a mom with ADHD, and one of my least favorite things is cooking in the kitchen. Hence, I've gotten rid of so many things over the years to simplify meal prepping and cooking and getting it all together for my family at night. And yet I still have so many issues with that 5 o'clock feeling hungry, and having no idea what to eat. That's why I wanted to quickly thank today's sponsor, which is Suvie. Suvie is my smart countertop oven and meal delivery service. And let me tell you, it's like having a personal chef who also amazingly watches the clock for you. So here's how it works. You load your Suvie meal into it in the morning. You can tap the recipe card onto the machine and set a timer for when you want your dinner to be ready. Then Suvie refrigerates the food until it is time to cook. It is so simple. I don't have to remember to thaw things out or have that 5 o'clock panic anymore. Suvie literally makes dinner when we're ready. And there are over 50 chef meals each week, so you never have to get stuck on the same boring thing every single day. And the other thing I love is that the meals all come frozen, so after you put them in the freezer, you don't have to worry if you're having a crazy day and you can't get to it. It's totally fine. But of course, my favorite thing has to be how easy it is to clean up when you are all done. You can throw everything into the dishwasher, and Suvie can bake, roast, air fry, slow cook. It's like every appliance that you might have in one. And so you can try Suvie risk-free for 100 days, and you can check out the link in the description below. Anybody else have a nice box of fix later items? These are anything from cords that are broken to gloves that have a hole and need to be fixed. Everything that's going to take up some of our time, some of our energy, and maybe even some of our money. These I call projects. So I had to change the name for myself from my precious little items that I was one day going to get to projects. And that's because when you think about a project, you realize that it's going to take up your time. You realize that you're going to have to maybe learn something new and put forth some energy into fixing it. And that's when I realized that I do not have an unlimited amount of time for my fix later objects. The things that do end up staying around, I've realized that I have to put a time limit on them. I have to put it on my calendar when I'm going to fix that item. And if I continue to pass that date and I haven't fixed them, then I know it's just not in my cards. And this is a really difficult side of our worry clutter. We worry that nobody else is going to take care of it like we could, or nobody else is going to be able to fix it, so it's going to end up in the landfill. And all of these worries spiral into us keeping way more projects than we could possibly ever do. So if you have a box like this like I do, then start giving yourself a time limit. Say, I'm going to sew this up in 30 days, and if I don't do it in 30 days, then these items must be beyond my threshold, must be beyond what I could possibly get done in a day. One of the great things I learned when I was starting to get rid of more and more of my fix-it clutter was that I was burdening myself with all of these tasks that I had set myself up to do. And even when I finally got rid of some old chairs I had gotten for free, because I realized that I had this grand idea of fixing them and painting them and reupholstering them, and I didn't do it. And I even kept those for months, thinking that I was going to do it when the time came. And then I had to just see myself for who I was and realize that this was beyond me. This was a task that I just couldn't get to. And then I ended up letting them go. Because fix it later clutter is a mental load that can be completely exhausting when we can't or we won't face the fact that it is just too much. You know, something that's really helped me in my decluttering process when it comes to overcoming our worry clutter, it really came down to the idea that I felt like the second I decluttered something, the door was shut and I could never get this item again, whether I liked it or not. And that idea stressed me out, right? It stresses us out when we think that the second we get rid of something, we can never go back and change our minds. But that's where keeping the mindset that there is an open door, there's a window, right? There is a little opportunity in the future for you to change your mind, and that's perfectly fine. There are many times in the past 6 years where I have decluttered things, changed my mind, gone back and got them. And you know what? I never gave myself a hard time about it, because what I realized was that I was going on a lifelong journey of learning how to live with less. But I ain't perfect, right? So this is a pathway to finding an easier life. It is not a blueprint. And so if you are getting really stuck on your worry clutter and your anxiety is on a 100, then think about the objects that you are letting go as an opportunity for you to experiment with what it feels like to live without this object. And if in the future you do want to go back and find that object again or something similar and you want to rebuy it, then you don't have to give yourself a hard time, because this was an experiment. This was testing out the waters in my decluttering journey. But I will say that while I have rebought some stuff before, it is like the 1% of the things that I have decluttered. I wish that I had taken you guys with me this entire 6 years, but oh well. But learning to declutter is not going to be perfect, and it's going to be messy sometimes, and we're going to make mistakes. And that's why thinking to yourself that instead of getting stuck on decluttering and not doing it because we're worried, you are always free to bring this back in, and it's always open to take a picture of it or to put it in a maybe bin for a month and then declutter it when you're really ready because the door is open. On that note, let's talk about what we can still do if we're stuck in our worry, because I talked about how we can take pictures of it for the future, but sometimes they're really sentimental objects and we just don't know if we can let them go because we're worried. And something we can do is write down the story that we remember with the object. It's really helped me when I was decluttering some of my grandfather's things, is to not only take the picture for the future, but also to write down what the memory was, because that is the important part, right? It's not necessarily any object that I was given that has ever held that much value to me, but it's the memory that we feel like is locked in the object. And that's why we live in this worry of letting it go. And so what I found to be really helpful is to write down the stories. Get a little notebook and write down all of the things that you can remember, all of the feelings that you get when you look at this object. Take a picture of it and then let it go. Because, like I said before, if it's not making your life easier, if it's not something that your family is really enjoying, and if it's not something that is in your threshold to keep up with, to take care of, to fix, then even if it's a sentimental object, it's adding to your mental load. But the picture and the story of it, you can keep and have forever. I am definitely the friend that could talk to you about worry clutter for probably the next 5 hours, but I'm not going to do that to you. So when it comes to worry clutter, is to try, instead of saying, what if I need this? That sparks our worry part of our brain, our fear of the future. Instead, say, how is this serving me right now? How is this serving my day-to-day life? When did I use it last? Was it useful when I used it last? Or for whatever reason, maybe the batteries are dead, maybe the cord doesn't work like it should, it's not serving me. That idea alone has helped me move forward past my anxiety and my worry and look at my clutter, look at my things clearly without the fog of the what if right in my face. I could see for so many years that I was living with things because I was afraid and I was worried about what might happen to me in the future, instead of asking, is it serving me? Because if it's not serving me right now with the person that I am, the family I have, the animals I keep, then it's not going to work for right now. It doesn't necessarily mean it was a bad decision. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make the object even not useful, but it does mean that it's not working for you. And that has helped me so many times to face the music, to hear the music, listen to the music. Anyway, whatever that saying is, to face the music that I was so often making excuses for keeping clutter that kept me drowning in my mental fatigue, when all it really took was me questioning why I was keeping something that wasn't working for me and the person that I am right now. All right, friends, I'd absolutely love it if you would join us here on Minimalese by subscribing, and of course, throw a heart emoji down below, friends, if you're already here decluttering with us, because you probably don't know this, but I get a big old smile every time I see one, knowing that I'm not alone. And if you want to continue your decluttering journey with me, then please watch one of the videos right here, and I wish you guys all the very best.